Alrighty then. Yesterday we had Michelle Bachmann on, and I think it went better than, most, and as good as it could be expected. And I don't want to throw Michelle Bachmann under the bus, because a lot of people that we support voted not to defund the NSA. We decided that we were going to take that interview with Michelle because I'm looking for the truth too. And that's what Michelle said. I'm looking for the truth. What has been proven? What is out there? Well, not everything can be proven. There are some things that, for instance, your faith in God can't be proven. You have to look at all of the things around and say, okay, does this work or not? And especially when it comes to security, you can't wait for somebody to say, you know what? The government's completely out of control. They've taken all of the devices we gave them. They told us they wouldn't. And boy, were we wrong, because then it's too late. You never get the power back. Never. And so you can't have everything on absolute, well, there's no instance of, could we just look at human nature? Because that's what the founders did. They looked at human nature. And that's why the restraints are in there. That's why the president always says, there's a constitution. It's a document of negative liberties instead of positive. What the government should do for you and can and must do for you. No. Because the founders understood human nature, that power corrupts, and power corrupts absolutely, especially when it's absolute power. And it's only a matter of time. Because of that, they made this a document of negative liberties. The government must never do these things. And that's what's happening. They are doing those things. And so we decided to go to the whistleblowers. Now, these are people who are highly credible. And we have one of the whistleblowers, and we intentionally asked for one of the whistleblowers that used to be in the intelligence briefings. She used to work on Capitol Hill, so she would see the kinds of things that Michelle Bachmann would see and the others who are on that intelligence committee would see. And we asked her to listen to Michelle and what she said and tell us where she's right, where she's wrong. And again, this is not about Michelle Bachmann, because Michelle Bachmann is a friend. Michelle Bachmann, I think, is a patriot. Michelle Bachmann is fighting her heart out. I think she's just wildly misguided on this, and she's not alone. She was in the majority. We're in the minority. We'll go to that coming up after the top of the hour. Is there any security when you have given away all of your liberty? Our founders answered no. How do you answer? Yesterday, we had Michelle Bachmann on, who is a friend of the program and remains a friend of mine, and is a patriot, I believe, and has fought the good fight. In fact, fought the good fight, so much so her family has been damaged. Her reputation is irreparable. It's just been destroyed by the machinery of the GOP and the progressive GOP, I should say. However, I think she's misguided on this NSA thing, and I know that I don't mean to single her out because she was in the majority. There are a lot of people that we agree with, and I think are smarter than this, are going along with the NSA, and they're calling Snowden a traitor. Now, I don't necessarily agree with Snowden. I don't think Snowden, did all the right things. I think what he did at the beginning of warning us about a system that is out of control is a patriotic act. Now what do you do? Is he a patriot? I don't know. That was a patriotic act, I believe, but many say he's a traitor. Well, Michelle was on yesterday, and she was making claims that there's no evidence that any of this stuff is happening, that they are not collecting. Well, if they're not collecting, then why do we have the NSA collection facility?
It's just for foreigners.
That's the biggest bullcrap I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
And Michelle asked us to believe yesterday the head of the NSA, which, why would I believe them? They have been known, the FBI, the Justice Department, the NSA, the CIA, they've all lied to us. The president has lied to us. Everyone has lied to us on this. And we have caught them. And here's what happens. Michelle comes on and she says, yeah, but this specific thing, they haven't lied to us on. Well, that's... Okay, yeah, my wife hasn't said that I look fat in these pants, but,
Doesn't change the fact that you're fat, does it? You're still fat. regardless of
Don't
whether
think we
she
need
has
to
said
really go down
that
this.
in those specific pair
I don't
of
think we
pants
need to
you're fat or
harp
not.
on this.
No, I'm just trying to
I don't think we
accentuate
need
your
to-
point. I understand. You're saying you're fat. And whether or not she said in these specific genes you're fat isn't really the point. The point is that you are, in fact, fat.
Yeah,
the
but
point
Pat,
is,
Glenn, it's all right. It's all right. Pat, the point
Yeah.
that you bring up, though, is brilliant. Can you just say it one more time? Because I don't think I understood
Well, he's
it fully.
fat.
Okay, all right.
And regardless,
Let's get to
it doesn't matter
Diane
what
is on the Diane Rouke is a woman who has been on the program before. She is truly a patriot. There is Diane. How many of the whistleblowers is 4 or 5 of you guys?
5.
There's 5 of you, and your position used to be what?
I was on the professional staff of the House Intelligence Committee for 17 years.
Okay, so you worked for people that were on the Intelligence Committee, like Michelle Bachmann. I mean, you didn't work for Michelle Bachmann, right?
That's
but
correct. She was not on the committee when I left, but yes, I worked for the members.
Okay,
For the
and so
Republican members, actually. I was on the majority staff at the time that I quit.
you saw this stuff coming, and you saw it happen, and you saw it from the same kind of vantage point that Michelle Bachmann would see it from.
Actually, yes. The staff usually knows things in more detail because they have more time to research it. In fact, that's their job, to find the issues and present them to the members.
Okay, so I asked you yesterday if you would listen to the interview and tell me if I was wrong, or if she had information, and I know you don't have any current information, but if you could explain to me how I was seeing it and I was misguided, or how she was seeing it and she was misguided.
Yes, her main point was that all of the speculation about government collection of the contents of both emails and phone calls was incorrect, and that she had tracked this down mainly by going to General Keith Alexander, the head of NSA, and asking him about it, and he had denied that the contents were collected. She acknowledged the collection of metadata, but that didn't seem to bother.
Could you explain metadata?
Metadata is the externals, what they call the externals of the message, either phone or email. It used to be called externals in NSA, and NSA has a very long history of collecting signal externals. This was mainly when signals were going through the air that they started this, when they were collecting like microwave telephone conversations. And so often those were encrypted, and increasingly they have been encrypted, so to the point that they could not be broken often. And therefore, the only data that NSA had to deal with often was the physical characteristics of the signal, the time when it was collected, that sort of thing. They did not have access to the conversation itself. And so they became expert in deciphering what these signals meant, and in finding intelligence report collection in it and reporting on it, and reporting useful intelligence, very useful intelligence.
Okay, so hang on. So hang on. So metadata, if I were calling Pat every night at home, they couldn't figure out what I was telling Pat, but they could figure out that Glenn called Stu every day, and then at a certain time he would call Pat, and then this action would happen after it, and so they could figure out that we did a radio show together and we were most likely talking about the radio show.
That's correct, things like that. And if you were calling your doctor and what kind of doctor it was, they could figure out what kind of illness you probably had, that sort of thing. When we went to digital data, metadata, what they changed the term to metadata because when telephone companies and wire companies pass this along, they have all the header data. And so they have who it's to, who it's from, what time it went, what path it traversed. In the case of cell phones, it would be what location it was for billing purposes. All that sort of thing. So you get a lot more external data on digital data than even you had on the
right, the old style. Okay, so now she says that they're dumping all of that. They're using it, and then they're dumping it, and they're not collecting any of that on the U.S. citizen, which I don't believe for a second.
No, she admitted that they're collecting the metadata on U.S. citizens, but that didn't seem to bother her. She only alluded to it once. What she was mainly focused on was that they were not allegedly collecting the content of either emails or phone calls.
Do you believe that?
I believe there's plenty of evidence that they have collected some content, at least on phone calls, and on emails they collected content from the beginning, and there's quite a bit of evidence on that, including my own personal experience.
Do you care to get into that at all?
I can do that. Yes, I was when Bill Binney first came to me. He told me about the collection of both email and phone calls, and then actually I and some other staffers were briefed on one line of collection of emails in early March of 2002, about a month before I retired, and they were at that briefing, they also discussed that they were doing 3 hops. I don't know if you have gotten into this. And what this means is that they were going way out to collecting a lot of information. So if a foreign person contacted a U.S. person, they would collect not only that conversation, but one hop beyond that, which is to the next person, to the person who in the U.S. who he called, and that's one hop. And then the second hop is who the people he called in turn, and then a third hop to whom all those people also called. This involves, mathematically, this involves a huge number of people, especially when you get out to the third hop. And Chris Inglis, the deputy director of NSA, finally admitted last week that they were actually collecting sometimes out to the third hop. Well, I know they had said before only the second hop. So, and I knew from my briefing that it was way out to the third hop. So I know they're collecting even phone content out to the third hop, at least on sometimes, and he admitted it.
You also know they're lying because they said for a long time they weren't doing that, and in fact they were.
And that's
they lie. I mean, they lie all the time.
Diane, that's my real problem, is that they've already proven themselves to be liars. Mm-hmm. And so, they've already been caught in these lies, and they've said, no, we're not doing that. Oh, okay, well, yes, we are doing that, but we're not doing the really bad stuff. Well, wait a minute, why should I believe you? You have absolutely no credibility.
I absolutely agree with you on that. I do not understand why the committee goes only to these people who are defending their own record and doesn't call in any of the critics, any of the other people. I just don't understand it. They don't ask tough questions. Even the House Judiciary Committee asked tough questions last week.
Diane, I think... Go ahead.
The House and Senate Intelligence Committees have been in the forefront of defending this. They have defended it far more than President Obama has.
Diane, I have been, I think you were on the set with me when we had a conversation, and it was after the show, and all 5 of you were there, and I said, so how does this stop? And you all kind of came to the conclusion that it doesn't, because everybody's hands have blood on it, and you're never going to be able to convince people to give up the power that they have. I think there's another set of things that really very concerning to me, and that is if the NSA, the NSA becomes Herbert Hoover, and if they have all of the information on our elected officials, all they have to say is, I don't think that's coming out. I don't think you're going to stand against it. Do you think that kind of stuff is happening yet?
Oh, yes, I do believe. You mean J. Edgar Hoover, I think.
Yeah, J. Edgar, yeah.
Yes, I do believe that is happening. It's being used for political purposes. It was used against the 5 of us for political purposes. We had done nothing wrong. They came after us and tried to find anything they could to get us in jail.
Do you believe that... They
searched for 7 years.
Do you believe that Snowden is a patriot or a criminal?
I believe he is a patriot, at least in part. I believe his revelation of domestic surveillance was absolutely, it could save the Republic. Let me say that. I believe the Republic is at risk with this program. There is no way you can remain free when the government has a dossier on almost every citizen in the country. No. Over time, we will lose our freedom, and we're already losing it. But on the other hand, I believe he went too far. He obviously believes that it was unethical for us to do to our ally, to collect on our allies, and he has selectively released some of that. I think if he would have just left it at domestic and said, look, I have more, but I'm not going to release anything that hurts our country. I'm just trying to protect America. You just need to know that this is happening on a grand scale. I think he wouldn't have lost support. Yeah, I think he would go down in history as an absolute hero if he had confined it to that.
And if I may, because I have a break we have to take, and Diane, I appreciate, if you don't mind, I'd like to publish some of your notes and put them up on the Blaze that you sent after the interview yesterday.
Sure, you can do that, and you can use them anytime you want yourself.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I think that you are going to be remembered, the five of you, when all is said and done, as at least watchmen on the tower, and I hope that we get to the point to where you are all remembered as heroes for the stand and courageous stand you have taken during the Bush administration, and it has only gotten worse. God only knows what the next administration will do with the power that they have. Diane, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.